Hi, I'm Kevin Eikenberry, and I'm here to help you reach your potential as a leader and a human being. Welcome to Remarkable TV. Today we're talking about 2 simple stress relievers. I'll bet you're ready for that, so let's go. On a previous RTV, I asked people to tell me what questions they had, what things they wanted me to talk about on these episodes, and someone sent me a question. They said, Kevin, can you share a couple of simple stress relievers with us? Well, sure. I'm not sure why they thought I would know, but I do have some ideas, and I'd be happy to share them with you. And since Remarkable TV is about better leader and better human, it fits perfectly, doesn't it? Because we don't want to be a stressed human, and we don't want to be a stressed leader, and our team doesn't want us to be that either. Having said that, though, it's important to recognize that stress isn't all bad. In fact, I know that when the question was asked, they were talking about what we would call bad stress or distress. One kind of stress is distress, the stress that gets in our way, that tightens us up, that keeps us from being at our best. But there's another kind of stress. Technically it's called eustress. The EU in the front is sort of like in euphoria, right? So it's a positive stress. So if you think about it, if you are like in total, dude, I'm cool. If you're totally in that mode, if there's no stress of any kind, then you probably can't be at your best either, right? Like you need to have a bit of an edge to be at your best. And so there is such a thing as eustress. And so that we're not trying to relieve all stress and get to zero. We're just trying to get it to a place where it's not in the way of us being successful, if that makes sense. So let's relieve the distress. And I'm going to give you 3 ways, not just 2. So let's go on with it, okay? So the first one is when you're stressed, it's all up in your head, what I want you to do is to write down what is stressing you. Now, your first thought about that is, Kevin, write it down. I'm just going to get more stressed by writing it down. But I'm going to bet you that the opposite will be the case. Once you start actually writing down what it is, there'll be less of it than you think. You've got one idea or 2 ideas that keeps running around in your head 25 different ways, but when you put them down on paper, there's not near as many as you might have originally thought. And plus, when you get them written down, you can start to immediately see, well, I can deal with that, or I can deal with that, or that's not even realistic, or that's not really going to happen. So by writing them down, by thinking them out and getting them down on paper, we get them clearer. Number one, we've talked about that in a previous episode. But by writing them down, we figure out how few they probably are, or at least we start to figure out what we might be able to do about them, or which ones we might let go of. So one way to relieve your distress is to write down what's stressing you and then go from there. Second one is change something. When you're stressed, change something. Get up and take a walk or go exercise or do something. Just move. Change the topic of the conversation. Switch to a different task. This isn't just meant to be denial, but it's meant to give us, it changes our energy. It gives us a chance for our brains to move in a different direction. It gives us a chance to stop and really, for our subconscious minds to think about what's stressing us and maybe come up with some solutions. And just the movement, literal movement, as well as mental movement, is of great value. So if you want to relieve some of your distress, change something. I don't mean change your clothes, although I suppose that could work too. But we're talking about moving around, changing something, taking a walk, exercising, listening to some music, do a dance, anything. Change something. It will start to change the way your brain is working around the stress. And lastly, I know I said I'd give you 2. I'm going to give you 3. Here's the third one. Stay off social media. I'm not saying you have to stay off forever, but there's lots of research that says that the longer people spend on social media, the sadder they get, the more depressed they often get. And so a lot of us don't necessarily, the social media thing isn't always all great. We hear a bunch of negative news stories perhaps, or we hear about how other people's lives are better than ours today, and now we get more stressed. Like, take that out of the picture. So if you're stressed, don't go dive onto Facebook. And from my perspective, don't go tell everybody else on Facebook why you're stressed either. Write it down, but you have to share it with the whole world. But I'm saying stay off of it. I'm not saying forever. I'm saying in that moment of great stress is probably not the time. It's really probably not going to be a stress reliever. It's not going to be a mindless activity. It's not going to help, and it might hurt. So for now, if you want to relieve your stress, stay off the social media for a bit. Okay? So we give you 3 things. Write it down, what's stressing you, but not on social media. Change something and stay off social media just for a while if you want to relieve the distress that's around in your life. Now, I hope that was helpful. And so let me put that all together, tie it in a bow with today's tweet. If you want to relieve your stress, write down what is stressing you. It is likely less on paper than in your head. Right here, every week, there's another episode of Remarkable TV. And like this person sent me a question, if you've got a question, you can put it in the comments below. Send us an email. Let us know. We'll be happy to share it on a future episode because, you know, if there's one every week, I got to come up with stuff to talk about. I'd be happy to talk about your stuff, too, every week right here on Remarkable TV.